following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back, in case you're wondering, with George Case, who is on his way. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. We have a full house to greet George when he gets here this morning. Alan Blumpkin is here.
Hello there, everybody.
Okay, David Hubler is expected. Ron Rabinovitz is here. Hello, Ron.
Everybody.
Ron, you're you've brought two guests, and
yes.
One of them is the returning Renee James, and
right.
Your third time in the zone. Terrific having you back, Renee.
Thank you so much, Ralph. Great to be back.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, if you would, to introduce your co-producer on your terrific show, your terrific project, your movie on Shoeless Joe Jackson, and if you would be so kind, Renee, to introduce him.
Absolutely. With me, I have my co-producer, as you said, Frank Bilotta. Say hi, Frank.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Frank.
Hi, Frank. Hello, Frank.
Okay. Pleasure to have me on, and Renee, of course. And I've listened to the other two interviews that Renee did, and it was great. You guys put on a great show there.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's our passion to do it, and I hope it shows through, and for not just you, for everybody. I have some terrific talent on this network that really makes my life a pleasure. So let me ask you both how it was that you got together with this. It's Renee's project. I assume she brought you in, Frank.
Hey.
That is correct.
Is that David? Yeah. I've
David
been on.
Hubler.
Hi, I've been on hold. Hi.
Oh, nice to have you. Frank Bilotta's here, Renee James, Ronnie Rabinovich, Alan Blumpkin. We have a full house, so we have no time restrictions. Let's have a show where everybody gets to talk and we get all our needs met. I just asked Frank and Renee how they got together on the project.
Okay, and what actually happened, Renee has been working on this project for about 10 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
And I guess about a little over 2 years ago, Renee and I had met, and Renee was talking about this project she was doing, and I said, what project is this? And she said, it's Shoeless Joe Jackson. And I just looked at her, and I said, because it's kind of strange, guys, because to have a woman like Renee, this smart, beautiful woman, and she's starting to spout out about Shoeless Joe Jackson, and I just said, wow. I'm in love, guys. being a baseball fan, and it was just amazing the work that she had done previously on getting this movie launched, and I was very, very impressed. So
thank you.
She had me hooked at that point. So I've been on this.
What are your qualifications to make a movie, Frank?
Well, I've been involved with celebrities and the business for a very long time. So, I've produced before. I've done some other things before, and I really just couldn't pass this up. It's just a great opportunity, and just such a great storyline that it's. I'm trying to think of the right word here, but it was just she got me. She got me on this story, and I just couldn't, just like her, we just couldn't let it go. ever since then, for the past 2 years, it's been, I mean, we've been living, eating, and breathing Shoeless Joe Jackson. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, and Frank has also had, he's been the agent for, Freddie Pacheco, who was the fight doctor for Muhammad Ali, and Tony Dow from Leave It to Beaver, Burt Young. So he's in the industry as well.
Okay,
Great.
now,
terrific.
refresh my memory, was Tony Dow the older brother or the younger brother?
He was the older brother.
Older brother.
He played, Tony Dow played Wally. On to be great guy. Just if you ever have the chance to meet Tony, he is Wally.
He is Wally.
It's true. He is Wally.
He did a little video for us for our Indiegogo campaign that you'll see hopefully coming up in the next couple of weeks. Yes, we're going to be launching the Indiegogo campaign probably the first week in January. It'll go live, and Tony had asked. He said, I want to do a video for you guys, and I said, right, little spot, and it's him being Wally. It's him being him. But it's priceless. And that's going to be up on the Indiegogo campaign.
Well, know what's nice to hear is that there is a former child actor out there that is doing well in life and who's looked upon by people as a good person and has made it, because tragically there are so many stories of kids who get into the industry, brought into the industry by screaming parents. Michael, one of David and I's friends and a co-host on Bronx Roots on this network, is a former comedian named Michael Preminger. And he had, lucky enough to have, an incredibly precocious young child. And he tells stories of being dragged almost into the doting parent who takes his kids to auditions and interviews and what have you. And he told the story about how that quickly ended. David, you want to talk about that a little bit?
You've got me, Ralph. I don't remember that.
Anyway, he just told us a story of how the industry can be very tough on kids.
We did talk about that in general. Yes, I mean, it's more the mothers than anything.
We're off the subject a little bit, Frank, but did you find that to be him to be an unusual case, or am I just off base?
I mean, there's a bunch of them that have turned out. I'll use the quote normal. That really are great people. Tony's one of them. Tony actually did it was a documentary it's probably now about 25 years ago. That was just on child actors and what happened to them and all the pitfalls. It was a great documentary. And I'll tell you what, Ralph, if you like, I'm sure I can get Tony to come on for you at some time to be a guest. I'd love to talk.
That'd be great.
I would be honored. Tony,
fabulous.
I was the big brother in our family. Beaver was about my brother's age, and I was about Tony's age growing up. And he set a real high example on the show of how to be a good big brother. I never really lived up to that in any way.
That would be a hard one to live up to, I would say.
But I can honestly tell everyone that he is one of the nicest people I have ever come across. Just a really nice guy. His wife is wonderful. When for example, when Renee and I go out to the West Coast, we stay with him, and he's just a great guy. So, but I'm sure I'm sure I can get him to come on the show at some point. Just let me know.
If you could get you Beaumonts to get on, that would be a guest.
Well, he passed a long time ago.
Yeah, see, that's the trick. See, you got a lot of things you have to put up with in showbiz to have an interesting guest.
Was in one of the great Z movies that I used to collect in the 90s. Excuse me. He was in a great Z movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the ones that they made in the 50s for about $20. And the only reason they're still around is because of videos.
Yeah, they're on cassettes and what have you.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I collected them in the 90s. They had to be very cheap and look like they were made for $50 in somebody's garage.
Okay, before we get back to baseball, I got to ask you, Frank, if you know about Eddie Haskell and how he turned out. Hope he's okay.
I actually met him before.
Oh, did you?
That's all I'll say.
Well, he ended up being a police officer out in California, and Tony still, Tony still talks to him every once in a while. So, yeah.
And other than making documentaries, is there anything Tony does that might be interesting to the audience here, or me?
Well, Tony actually, a lot of people don't really know about his career, but he after Leave It to Beaver, they actually had another TV show that was on Disney, and that was another. What was the title of it? Was it was basically Leave It to Beaver 2, when they were older, and they had kids of their own. Oh, it was called The New Leave It to Beaver, and
I think I vaguely remember that.
I do too.
Yeah, and that ran for I think 4 or 5 years on Disney, and then Tony went into directing, and he directed a lot of the Star Trek. Remember here we go, close to you guys. Would you remember the TV show Coach?
Yes.
Yes.
And Tony actually directed that. He directed Harry and the Hendersons, a lot of different things. But he retired in 2000, and he went. He started doing what he always wanted to do, which was his passion, believe it or not, which was sculpting. And he's a highly acclaimed sculptor. So
really,
yeah. So he's pretty much retired from the movie industry business.
Does he keep in touch with Jerry Mathis?
Yes, absolutely. They actually a few times a year they get together. They do some of these Comic-Cons or get together for autograph signings and things like that. But yes, they're still in touch. Absolutely.
Good. That's great.
That is great. I have a question. Because we're talking about TV shows and how they're made, I always thought Leave It to Beaver and Ozzie and Harriet were basically produced in the same way, presented in the same way, relationships with the brothers, the overall family, the guidance and all that. Were the same people behind those two shows in any way?
Not that I'm aware of. No, not that I'm aware. But it was fine. It was.
Yeah, I mean, we're very
family.
Ozzie and Harriet began as a radio show, and Ozzie and Harriet were a part of his orchestra. She was his female singer. And the show ran on the radio for a number of years, and they produced, they ran the whole show, literally. They moved to TV. The boys were quite young at that time, and they did a weekly TV show. and that was theirs. Ozzy was, a producer. I don't know who wrote this shows, but I'm sure he had a hand in them because he pretty much ran the the whole show, so to speak.
I have a grandson.
They were very well done, very good family shows that you don't see.
The only thing about the Ozzy and Harry show was no one ever knew what Ozzy did for a living because he was always in the living room.
Yeah. Yeah.
With his sweater on, his button-down sweater.
Yep.
Terry Mathis was in a Hitchcock movie. He was in with Shirley MacLaine and John Forsythe.
Oh.
I have a grandson whose name is Ozzie Nelson.
Really?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
My kids, of course, didn't know who that was.
Well, and of course, there's the film, Ozymandias.
Baseball.
Yeah, excuse me, Ralph. The movie was Trouble with Harry.
Oh, okay.
Trouble with Harry. That's just Jerry Mathis is looks like he's about 4 or 5 years older than that.
Okay. Yeah, we remember them as they were. We see, no matter how they age, we still see a little of their youth and what have you. And it's true of all of us.
It's like you expect baseball players to look like they did on the cards from 60 years ago.
Right. And
they don't.
It's also amazing, too, because especially Tony has such a loyal following. It's amazing. It's amazing that, that show ended in 1963, and it is just truly amazing at how many people are still, to this day, talking how many years later. He gets fan mail like you would not believe. And if you ever look on his Facebook page, it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, and we have a celebrity art gallery in Fort Lauderdale, Bilotta Gallery, and it's just primarily work of celebrities. And Tony is our best-selling artist.
Yeah.
He's a very talented
with his sculptures. Yes, absolutely. Hands down.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
Renee, do you have a target date yet on the movie?
Worked with over the years that hasn't been that much of a pleasure to work with, that gave you a hard time on any level?
You always go to these hard-hitting questions, Ralph.
Well, I want to make it interesting, and everything can't be fluff and perfect because every business has that one story of somebody who just went out of their way to be a joik, as my Uncle Boris.
A joik.
A joik. Any joiks that come to mind? Maybe the dead ones you could talk about so we don't get into trouble.
That's safe. Well, in my experience, almost everybody, I'd say 98% of the people that I've come across have been pleasant. There have been a few that, I would say came as a surprise, their personalities. But, yeah, I don't know if I should name names.
Renee, you don't always have to take the high road. Take the higher road and get it out there.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. There's one fellow that I used to work with, that I used to manage, an actor, but I don't know. If you do a little research, you could probably dig his name up, but yeah, he wasn't of the utmost character, I would say, but yeah, truly, some of the times I've run into people that I thought, it seems like a lot of the times, again, in my experience, some of the people that you think would be jerks are the nicest people, and some of the people that you think are going to be, super nice because of the characters they played on TV aren't always that pleasant.
Right. Okay.
You're not
that is
nice.
diplomatic way. Renee, you are so sweet. I could understand why Frank did cartwheels when he met you, because you talk about baseball and you're sweet. And the prettiness, that beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Absolutely, that's for sure. Absolutely.
So,
and she is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Inside and out, it sounds like, huh?
I've met you. We've been face to face.
Yes.
I can attest to that.
Pleasure. Yeah, well, and you're a wonderful man, Ron. I enjoyed our company.
Thank you.
We'll be up in Minnesota again, and like I said, we're leaving tonight, so we should have coffee while we're there.
Okay, good. I'd love it.
All right,
yeah,
we'll give you a buzz.
Absolutely. Give me a buzz.
Beautiful,
absolutely.
Little comfortably zoned mini reunions all over the country.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Do you have a target date yet on the movie?
Well, we're still shooting for the end of next year. It's a really aggressive timeline because a lot still needs to happen. But,
sure.
The biggest hurdle is this development phase. And
sure.
As Frank said, we're going to be launching this Indiegogo campaign. And, we appreciate anybody coming on the site is Indiegogo.com. And, you can look for different projects on the page, and ours will be on there. The end of the second week, or end of the first week to the beginning of the second week of January, we'll be launching. And so that's the biggest hurdle, is getting those funds for the development, which is, where we pay our attorney fees and do our SEC filings and all of that to, take on the big investors. And after that phase is done, then, it's going to be pretty quick after that.
Okay, great.
I imagine the hardest part is casting a public address announcer from back in those days. A guy with the megaphone, and he'd come on and he'd say, "Now batting, number 71, Shoeless Joe Jackson."
I don't know, Ralph. That was a great audition.
There were no numbers in those days.
Ralph.
There were no numbers.
No. First numbers didn't come in.
Yeah, there were also no. Not only no numbers, they really had no public address system at all.
Yeah.
No,
they did have the guy with the megaphone though, and that covered.
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah, not
radio, so that would do it.
Yeah.
I think his name is Ralph.
Do I have the gig? Do I have the gig is what I'm saying. I'm an aggressive...
We'll find a part for you in there somewhere.
There's a Bat Boy's job.
Yes.
Give me the Bat Boy.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I'll get a SAG card, and I'll be there. And I'm easy to work with, too. I don't even need my own trailer, and I don't have idiosyncrasies. And
no red M&Ms in your dressing room.
We could share a dressing room. I mean, you have great references. All right. I don't know how to do this any better than to go around the room, and each of you, if you would. Ask these two people what you're curious about on the life of Shoeless Joe Jackson. I'll start by saying, what surprised either of you or both of you about the real Shoeless Joe from the time you met him, or not met him, but came up with the idea, did your research? Was there something that really jumped out at you about him that you'd like to pass on? Let's start with Frank, because I might have asked Renee that question at one time or another. So, Frank, what surprised you about this journey?
Well, that's a great question. It really is. And I think it's a number of different things. I think that we all we all have misconceptions about Shoeless Joe. When Renee first, as I was saying earlier, when Renee first started talking to me about Shoeless Joe, and right then and there, what do I think of? I think of the first thing you think of is the 1919 World Series. You think of, he threw a game, he did this, he did that, and the thing that got to me was the amount of misconceptions there are out there about this man. He was a really good person. He was a good man, loved kids. I mean, just an all-around great guy who kind of got caught in a situation, and it just spun out of control. I mean, he tried to give that money back. Here's a guy who hit 375 in that series, didn't make any errors, hit the only home run. That's not somebody who's going to throw a game. And here's a guy who I believe belongs in the Hall of Fame. And I just got caught up in the whole thing, and I truly believe that his story needs to be told.
Okay, I'm gonna get off the subject of your impressions, and I will ask Al. Al is our resident genius in terms of baseball history, and he's a Sabre superstar, and he knows it all. I want to know from you, Al, how does Shoeless Joe Jackson compare to the likes of Ty Cobb, Tris Speaker, Babe Ruth, and throw in anyone else you want? Is Shoeless Joe Jackson right up there with those guys, baseball talent-wise?
Yes, I think so. In fact, Babe Ruth, Shoeless Joe hit left-handed despite what they show in Field of Dreams.
Right.
And Babe Ruth was hit left-handed also. And Babe Ruth always said that he copied his basics at bat from Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Really?
Huh. Yeah.
Really?
He always gave a lot of credit to Shoeless Joe and his technique, which Ruth said was very influential on him.
Right.
And talent-wise, he was up there. He has the third highest lifetime batting average. He was hitting the average when most of his career was in the dead ball era, except for 1920, and he hit very well in the dead ball era. And I think that had he not been suspended from baseball, the lively ball was he 382 in his last season, 1920. That he would have definitely been in one of the first two classes at Cooperstown.
Great analysis.
Agreed.
Thank you, Alan. I'll ask one more question, and this it's based on what you said. He loved kids. Would have he been a great coach or a good coach, as would have been Pete Rose, talented instructor? Would have he been stayed in the game and given back to the game along those lines were he not suspended?
Who are you asking?
I'll ask Renee.
Okay. I definitely think he would have been a terrific coach. Joe always took time with the kids in his hometown of Greenville, South Carolina. We hear stories from people who actually knew him that said, kids would come over and ask him to throw to them and to hit to them, and he would always accommodate them. And we just learned one story. A lady that was in her 90s said that she used to live across the street from Joe, and one of the stories that she told was there were a group of kids that came over and wanted to play with Joe, and one happened to be a girl, and of course the boys said, "No way, you're a girl, you can't do this." And Joe said, "Okay, fine. If she doesn't play, then I'm not playing with you guys. So, just taught these kids a lesson. And I think that he just had a good heart, and I definitely think he would have been a great coach.
Yeah, because I think a Pete Rose would have too, and these guys get suspended for one thing or another, and the game ends up losing by not having their presence. So, David Hubler, anything you'd like to ask these two gentlemen? Lovely
yes.
couple.
I'm called one of the guys all the time. I'm used to it.
I'm one of the faux pas people. So
no, that's okay.
There I go again. Excuse me, Renee and David Hubler.
No worries.
By the way, author of Gnats and Grays. Terrific book about wartime baseball, and wanted to give you a little credit for that, sir.
Thank you. Always nice to get a plug. As a writer, I was more curious about the script itself. Now, you can't just concentrate on his playing baseball in the 1919 series. That seems to be, has been done. So where will the concentration be? On his post-baseball career? Or, how do you plan to do that?
Well, we're not going to, of course, tell the story from birth to, his death, but we're going to touch on a lot of things, and, it's not just going to be a baseball movie. Of course, it's going to be a key part of it, but, there's a lot of his life that I think adds to his story that will be included. Our writer, Angelo Pizzo, of course, wrote the movie Rudy. He wrote Hoosiers and My All-American, and he did a terrific job of showing the personal side of these players. And so we have full faith that he's going to do an incredible job telling Joe's story. But there are aspects of his life that they're important for the public to know that may not know about Joe. Like when he was 6 years old, he worked in a textile mill. He worked 12-hour shifts right alongside adults. And, it was a really hard life. These kids got up at 5 in the morning and, they didn't go to school. They worked and, breathed all this cotton mill dust and
Sure.
It was a tough life. And, he supported his family. He helped support his family. And, where his brother and sister got to go to school, he was never able to. So, he never learned how to read or write. So that definitely contributed to, to his limited abilities in life. And, it figures into, so many people make a big deal out of him signing the confession. He didn't know what he was reading he didn't read. He couldn't read. So, I think that just his life being a poor person growing up in the South contributed to it, because he didn't get out and, didn't have a lot of access to the outside world other than his, Southern roots.
Yeah.
And so he was a little naive, so all of these things come into play. And then his wife, his relationship with Katie is also a very key factor in telling his story as well, because he definitely relied on her throughout his life. So we'll touch on those things.
Yeah, it sounds like the use of flashbacks to sort of bring up the growing up years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
You'll also capture the times that he lived in, which I'm really curious about. The Depression itself. There are few movies out there that really tell us what it was like, and I hope yours will accomplish that for us.
Well, we'll definitely touch on that. I would love to go in the great detail that we should, but we've only got 120 minutes to tell his whole story. So, we the whole story of just how these kids came to work in cotton mills is a story, all on its own, and could be a whole movie.
Right. It could be. You're right.
Standalone movie. But we have, we've toyed around with the idea of after the movie's out, of maybe doing a series that kind of spans his whole life, because there is a lot to tell. And, just as I said, the whole southern depressed region, the reason these kids had to work was because of, the loss of the Civil War, and the cotton fields were dying away, and people had to move off the farms and get jobs in the factories instead. So yeah, there's a lot of ground to cover, and we'll do our best to touch on it, but we unfortunately won't be able to go into a lot of great details other than just touching on it to let people know where he came from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At least in this stage.
Sounds fair.
Ronnie, anything you'd like to ask either of these?
No, I am so excited about this project. I think it's wonderful, and
thank you, Ron.
I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be terrific. You bet. I wish you both the best of luck. Do you have any other projects ahead of that you're thinking about?
Oh yes,
Yes, we do.
Yes,
yeah.
We have several projects that we have tucked under our belt that we don't dare think about too much right now because we're
of course not.
We're pretty taxed with this, but yes, we do. We've got some interesting stories in the pipeline.
Great, wonderful.
Beautiful. Is there an estimated time of release? About a year?
Well, hopefully, as Renee touched on earlier, it's really aggressive, but we're really shooting for the end of next year, the end of 2019, to get it out there for the 100-year anniversary of the 1919 scandal. So that's what we're shooting for, and if everything goes the way we think it's going to go, we'll be able to meet that. Sometimes unforeseen things happen that might delay it a little bit, but hopefully not.
Beautiful.
Great.
Frank, let me find out a little about you. You're from New York, I'll bet. I hear the accent.
How did you know? He's having a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
He hides it so well.
Yes. I actually.
What part of the city are you from?
I'm actually from Long Island. I grew up in a town called Smithtown, about halfway out on Long Island on the North Shore. So that's where.
Well,
I'm
from Long Island too, but it's Queens, Long Island.
Okay.
So,
I actually lived there as a child for a few years, and in Queens. But
where do you live now, Frank?
We actually live in Florida, Deerfield Beach in Florida, over on the East Coast, and it's nice and warm here. But Renee's got us going to Minnesota tonight, so I don't know how we're going.
That'll fix the warmness.
Yes,
Frank,
that'll take care of the warmness for you.
Yes.
So
I'm from a native New Yorker. Moved down here about 6 years ago. So I've been down here.
I got to ask you, were you a Dodger fan growing up?
I was, believe it or not, I was always a Yankee fan.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Why not?
You've got a fellow Yankee fan in David Hubler right here.
Okay.
And
excellent.
So that's nice. This was a good show. I really enjoy all of us together. It's a good dynamic for a show.
Well, anytime.
2019 is a big year, not only for Shoeless Joe, but also for Jackie Robinson, his 100th birthday.
That's
he
right.
was born in 1919. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting thing too.
We'll have to talk more about that, Ron.
Absolutely.
I see another project.
Good.
Always thinking.
Good. Yeah.
Always thinking, Renee.
Frank, I hope I have a chance to meet you too.
Yes. Well,
Saturday we're going to be at Caribou in Plymouth, so come and meet us.
Great. Okay.
No, not
you
Saturday.
got it. I will.
Oh no, not Saturday. The 26th. I'm sorry.
The 26th. Yes.
Wednesday.
So that's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Terrific. I love it. Just be in touch with me and we'll get together.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to wrap it up. I just want to thank you both for coming. I want to thank Ronnie for bringing you. I want to thank David Hubler. I want to thank Al Blumpkin. And I want to thank Happy Rockefeller, because that's the greeting of the times. Yeah, I don't say Happy New Year anymore. I don't say Merry. I say Happy Rockefeller. So thank her for the memories of Nelson and the rest of it. Nelson Rockefeller, when I was a kid, this is off the side, he was my favorite politician. He was a liberal Republican, and he was a man who didn't need to serve the public. He did it voluntarily. They had all the money in the world, and they were magnanimous people, and they gave back. And I'm wondering, as we go through the travails of the day politically, if we could look back at a positive role model who was a Republican. We haven't seen one of those for a long time.
We had a Democratic brother who was governor of West Virginia, too. The three brothers all were in public life.
The Republican brother was governor of Arkansas.
That's right.
Yeah, Winthrop, I think his name was.
Yes, Winthrop, exactly.
One of them was David, right? David Rockefeller?
No, David was not in.
That was the father.
Jay Rockefeller was the one in West Virginia.
Yeah,
he was the son of one of them. Yeah.
Okay, I'm finished with the Rockefellers.
All right.
We make a movie
out of the Republican Party today.
Well, I got to say something nice, because they failed us recently, but history means a lot to me.
Yeah, it does. It does.
We got to draw on that. Hey, thank you everybody again. Be very, very well. Alan, thank you. Al Blumpkin for that terrific analyzation of Shoeless Joe's career. And we'll do it again real soon.
Renee and Frank, thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you for having us again, Ron. All of you.
Absolutely.
Okay. I was glad I was able to tune in. I was still having trouble again this week, but I'm glad I made it. And thank you all.
And if we Oh, no, thank you. And if we could just say that if anybody's out there is interested, to go to our Facebook page, which is Shoeless Joe, Shoeless Joe Productions, or our website, which again is Shoeless Joe Productions. So we're going to start an Indiegogo campaign up in about a week and a half, so be on the lookout.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Good luck to you.
Okay. Thank you all again.
Look forward to seeing
Zone Radio Network. The show is, in case you're wondering, with George Case. And George Case is absent, but he's got a good excuse, I'm sure.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Adios. Bye now. Bye.
The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.